Hey, listen, there's a lot of other bits that I remembered in time. Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's edition of DooM WAD Travelogue. I'm Nick, and this is a show where we say, "Hey, I think my math was wrong, and this might be episode 100, and last week was 99, but nobody do the math, okay? Okay, we'll just keep that a little secret between you and me." And we also say, even though right now may not be a great time to be going out, that doesn't mean we can't still explore new and interesting spaces. We just do it in form of community-made Doom mods and level packs. Now, hey, proof the chat works. What's up, Box? Right? I always look at it and I'm like, what's the easy part to pronounce? And it's a different decision every week. Hey, Box, what's going on? Uh, for all of the other scenes I've left it off of this show for a long time since, I was alone most of the time anyway, and I was tired of, bot selling followers popping up on the archive. But if we have a consistent viewer every week and I'm responding, it's good to see on the archive what I'm responding to. So if nothing else, that's, what is it? Is that audience engagement? I forget how to do one of these. This week, on today's show, on today's episode of I saw good news last week in the middle of the night, sort of on Japan time, if you know what I mean. I think that has something to do with Smash Brothers. There was an announcement that, okay, if Bing machine translation is to be believed, they put out a call for mappers to sign up to begin work on the Japanese community project number 2. And that's super exciting and reminded me we never finished pack 1. So that is what I have brought up today. Bingo bango. Okay, I do want to point out, because I think about this a lot and I don't think I've ever addressed it. When you look down here on the lower third, it's more like a lower 10th. Man, screens are big these days. When you look down here and you look at the date, and you're going, okay, so does this come out in 2007, 2016, or 2024? I don't know either. Because, date. Listen, it may be longhand, but I think the one before we even try to unify order of month, day, year, which I don't even like. I prefer year, month, day because then when you sort things alphabetically, numerically, it still comes out right. Yeah, me too. So this one, I'm assuming this is 2016, July 24th. I'm assuming. I could have done some research, but that's not my style. Uh, so when you see the date down here, and if you're not sure what it is, I'm not either. I try not to make any guesses or assumptions. If there's a date in the README for the WAD, I just copy and paste that. If not, I copy and paste the date from the ID archive page where I download it from, and that might not even be release. That might just be upload to that site. I don't even know. And just okay. This has been loose for a long time, but I need okay. I don't have a pair of pliers. I have a regular screwdriver. I have a case of tiny screwdrivers. And I have this ceramic knife. And those are all of the tools that I have within reach that aren't art related. You ever just hold a knife? Some days that feels really good. It's the 24th month. That would be, I don't even know. Okay. That would be Marcember, because it would be the 2nd December. So whatever the 2nd December in a year is called. Lincoln Park's My December. That's the one he was talking about, the 24th month. I swear this is a show where we play games. Maybe not today, but listen, I also 2 Saturdays ago, we did bonus round. And then last Saturday, my brain did not register that the weekend was real. All right, these pants go in the wash now. Tastes like red now. Oh, boy. Talk amongst yourselves. This is great. This is the entertainment people have been showing up for since aught. Aught. Like if that sentence was algorithmically generated, when it would try to pull the date variable, it would come back with not a number. I don't know if that's a self burn so much as like an attempt at a burn on all of the people who don't come by and check out the stream, which means they have no taste. Well, COVID rates are rising again, I hear. Maybe that's been the problem all along. People don't come to check it out because people have no taste, because that's one of the possible effects of COVID. That's thematic. That goes with the purpose of the show. I have not had my coffee. In fact, what I just spilled was my breakfast gamer juice. Listen, the stream's already live. The archive's already recording. This is just, we're just gonna hang out here on this episode. Nah, it's cool. The other night I had to fix the drain in the bathtub, and I did. So showers are good to go again. What was I saying? Roll back one thought. I have no idea how I did not even realize that I was forgetting to stream until like days after the fact. And now here we are today, where the good news is Community Project 2 is launching, which means I decided let's go. That's a noise. Which means let's go back and pick up on our playthrough of Community Project 1, because like every map in here has been great. And apparently we were at map 20, and so of Doom 2 total conversion, that means we only have like 10 to 12 maps to go, depending on I forget. Does 32 include the bonus maps? Because it's still kind of broken up into 3 episodes, right? But 32 by 3, I don't think that. Yeah, no, because 30 would be 3 by 10, and 3 by 11 would be 33, so it's not. Oh, unless it was like 29 plus 3. But 29. Is 29 a prime number? 27 is not a prime number. It's one of the few like 7s that isn't a prime number, because that's 9 by 3. Should I just go play Math Blaster? Hey, actually, that's a good question. I'm just gonna bring up a tab over here, and I'm gonna leave it on a search for Doom WAD Math Blaster, and I will research that later. They made Math Blaster for the Nintendo DS? Sorry, Math Blaster in the Prime Adventure. This anime looking ass. Oh my god. Okay. Sorry, Math Blaster Hyper Blast 2, which had character. Oh, you can play dress up in Math Blaster. What is edutainment like these days? Oh my goodness. All right, like I said, I'm just gonna Leave this up in a search tab over here. Blaster Mobile. Kernel. All right. Let's get into it. Let's pick up where we were. As a reminder, if this is your first episode, first of all, try last week. That was a standalone WAD, not here where we're jumping into part 5 of a playthrough of a WAD. Second of all, this is a game about exploration, not about challenge, so we always play on the easiest, so don't... if you don't like that we're doing it... we're not doing it the right way by playing on the hardest level or whatever, that's your problem to deal with. Okay, I should move the thing over. Whoop. That's cute as heck, but that's not what I was looking for. I'm back. All right, here's our save file straight from Japan. Boy, I don't know when the last time we touched this was, but oh, it looks cool. Let's go. Right, they love to use this whatever like texture pack this is. It's good though. It's good though. I love to be on a floating space platform. I'll take that. Wow. Oh, I'm full. Okay, so I like that. Actually, that's kind of interesting, right? Because like we've seen a lot of shotgun start levels, but it's rare that we see it jump straight to super shoddy. Ow. Another person. Ooh. I think that if you're talking about right here, I feel like that's that might be me as a broadcaster, or that's going to be my mod Joe. Is anyone out there? Yeah, I don't know if my brain's working yet. Okay, so what are we... This all feels familiar in a way. Was it one of the VRAC maps that we played that was... like, not just, you know... basically a platform floating in space level, but was this very specifically, like floating islands with connections and a real focus on like pillars? I feel like we've seen a map that is much like this. The colors feel different. That one was more blue, less orange, as I recall. Yeah, and that one of the pillars was a soul sphere locked in a cage, not up in a window. So this is different. It's just very reminiscent. Are you kidding me? Okay, hang on. How are we feeling? All right. Better. What? Why? Could we not? See, I feel like that's a little cheap, maybe, because what you get is you're here, you don't even see the idea of like this teleport hub, and then it doesn't turn on until you're like right in front of it, probably looking this way. And you know, I'm already not a fan of the like everything just teleports into the space. I really like it when everything is like pre-existing in the world and you're just sort of releasing things. But add to that, this is a very small arena. It's like set up so that it'll activate once it's mostly out of your view, or likely out of your view. Is this over where we started? Where did we start? Okay, so I guess we could have approached it from a different direction, so I don't know about that. This would have maybe made a little more sense. But yeah, the idea of like if you're going to do that and it's going to be like a teleporting an arena, I kind of prefer it when like you are approaching it in such a way that the teleport landing pad is the main thing in your sight, and when you start setting it off, you're still far enough out that you're not like immediately one step away from melee combat, and it's just like yes, it's spawning in, but you have time to like sort of react and address, and so it's like, oh yeah, no, you're gonna, it's like, hey, you might want to take cover or at least start firing now, and there's a second before their projectiles start hitting you. Very crowded. Like, I feel like this is going to be okay, maybe large map isn't the... Okay, so is that all decorative over there? I don't see a way to get there. Like, I don't think this is going to be a small map necessarily, but it is very cramped. It might be a lot of, like, narrow, cramped passages, just sort of very densely packed together for a while, and that adds up to a big level. Okay, yeah, no, this was the start. Can I use one of these ledges to leap across anywhere? Do I just have to start pushing on random boxes? In you know, especially last week I was talking about like making spaces that feel realistic. Like these, assuming these are just like, you know, cargo crates, they would not fit through either of these passageways. They're just here to create some sort of like clearly they have a purpose. They are, you know, adding to this sense of being cramped. They are, you know, something visual interesting to look at as you go through that section. But they make no sense. I don't know. That's the kind of thing that bothers me, but I'm also picky. Oh, okay. Do me. Whoa, it's Mankibus bullets. Oh, hey, playing a map where I already have a bunch of ammo. Feels good. Feels good. I'm guessing there's like another Mankibus somewhere, because like even those Revenants came in paired. But maybe not. Hello? Elevator? Yellow key. Just barely telegraphed. Oh, there he is. Okay. North Korea, dude? Oh, something's buzzing. A different friend is streaming. Oh, good. That means I have somebody to raid when today's stream is over. Good. I mean, look at how my brain is doing. I imagine somebody could have started before me, and I would still end soon enough to go raid them. We've... Ow! I was gonna say, we've seen this, haven't we? No, we haven't. See, and this is a weird thing about sightlines, right? Like, clearly those dudes are activated, they're already coming towards us. And for being so far away, we really have, like, not only direct sightlines to each other, but, like... combat sightlines? You know, talking about the... is this also a yellow key then? Nope, okay. Talking about the difference between doors and windows. When that's fake... oh, I like this non-flat door shape. Oh, that looks good with that texture rotating, especially on the angle like that. Oh, that's good. Hey, a yellow key. What did we need yellow key for? That was that elevator just to the left of the giant doors that got us into the structure. I'm going to assume that means this door is red key. Okay. Hexen and heretic doors. What is... Shoot sting. I'm just going to deal with them later. Hello. Oh, bad. Okay. Hexen and heretic doors are the best. What makes Hexen and heretic doors? I thought, from what little of that game I've seen, they're still kind of like, yeah, exciting textures, but are still just kind of like flats. I'm just gonna assume I need these. Okay, plenty of rocket launcher, good. Ow! All right, that was really good though. That is a groan with respectable behind it, because just like, oh, a very cool thing, and then I went right for it, and it gave me a gift as a way to trick me into releasing the trap on myself. How they open? Do they open different? Don't they also just whoop? I mean, like these days with polymove line defs and poly objects, I've never played with them. I've only read about them on a wiki. It seems like you can really make things do kind of whatever you want them to. Ow! Oh! I do like that. So the different zones. Oh god! Like now that we're inside, this feels very. It feels very inside. Like this feels like a very like. It is so like differently designed. It feels like a discrete style of space. It feels like a different area. Very very strongly feels. But at the same time, like. Even though we've got these plenty of, like, okay, so this is actually a pretty weird, and I'm going to say interesting, but maybe just to me. This is kind of an interesting situation, where, you know, normally you talk about if you want to, help your player sort of generate a mental map of a space and sort of give them help to stay oriented while exploring the map. You know, the trick is, oh, give them sight lines. That way they can, from point A, they can look out a window, see something they don't recognize, and that is point B, and then when you get to point B, you look through the same window, and you see point A, and you recognize it, and you go like, oh, we're finally here from there, and it's sort of like, you understand that. This is so open, and has so many windows, and so many sight lines, and, you know, every... Like, even though the different areas, zones, whatever, are detailed very well, and certain areas look different, they kind of all look... Okay, that'll be a blue door. Even looking at the map, I'm not sure where I am. It's hard to... Okay, I started over there. But just like, I look out here, and I go, all right, maybe out here is a little better. Okay, so let's point. I'm seeing like 1 zone, 2 zone, 3 zone, 4 zone. I think there's a 5th zone over there. 6 zone, 7 zone, 8 zone, 9 zone. Like I'm seeing so many all at once through such small windows and none of them are pointing directly at like a like it's not quite enough to see the zone, but you need to see something iconic about that zone, right? So the fact that when we were in that first area, and definitely there was this idea of pillars, but they're just kind of a bunch of different pillars, and not like here is the main pillar that is the set piece. Like, I'm looking around, I got plenty of sight lines. They mean nothing to me. I do not know what I'm looking at because they are all so noisy, and it is unclear what you're looking at. Okay, I'm over here now? Okay. That just says locked up over there. Alright, maybe you see that if you're coming in here. But it's also up on the ceiling, and gamers don't look up. We all know this. Can I... No. But that's where the BFG is. I feel like we saw that before. Like, this is one of those ones where, like... So this is a thing in, like... Let's see here. Do I have anything to... Can I toot my own horn in the form of teaching? Not really good enough. But like, there's this idea of, like... You can... Like, it would be almost as bad as if every window just... Oh, whoa, these all drop. So this is already not what we remembered. So the form of this room changed. Okay, so even if I had seen this, I wouldn't have known that's what I was looking at because I did not see it change, so I would not have recognized it. Wow, there is a lot going on here. Like, I like hanging out in this space, but my issue is just, like, as a level designer, it is... not helping. Here, so I think if we look over here, that's the top. So like that one over there, the three big green pillars with the base. We know that. We saw that from one zone. We're seeing it from here. When you're there, you can see what the zone you're in looks like. That's iconic. I know that that's the, like, if it's not the very, like, back corner of the map, I at least know that that is, like, straight ahead. Like, that is straight ahead from the start. So that kind of helps, you know? But we look around at some of the other things going on, and it's just like... Like here, where I am now, I don't know where I am now. Here's a thing I can tell you, just like from my memory of how the geometry is connected. If we could... I know we saw this piece because these dudes are dead, which means I shot them a long time ago. There. Okay, those are those crates I complained about. I feel like I'm the only weirdo who would have really complained about those crates, the fact that they're in a space where they could not have been brought into. But that means from there, we were looking up here, and there's, like, it took me a while to recognize that. Like, it's... When you're doing... Okay, if you're doing... Like I said, if you're intentionally making things hard to recognize and go between, that's one thing. If this is happening unintentionally, then maybe that's something you missed or failed to consider. As long as you consider it, and it is a sort of distinct decision to lean into legibility or lean into unrecognizability, as long as it's considered, that's fine. But if you don't think of it and don't decide and you end up here, then that kind of means like, hey, this is something you should focus on next time and at least, bring it into your repertoire. You need to develop a real subconscious, like, not decision making, like a subconscious checklist of all the things you need to consider when working on a level like this. Because the thing is, like, I have seen this area before, but because I did not recognize it when I saw it from far away, it is not necessarily meaningful or any more clarity to me to realize that I'm here now. Like, I'm kind of only realizing where and what this space is by looking at that and going, I must have seen this, and I just had no clue. Because there's nothing like... I mean... It's this weird pier that sticks out here, but also, again, because you see through it and you see around it, and there's so much other stuff. Like, it's just so visually noisy that kind of like whatever is iconic about this, you can see other such iconic things all around it, and it doesn't stand out anymore. It is iconic. It is not highlighted. You don't get to sort of see it in a vacuum to sort of recognize it as its own chunk. It is just, it may be unique, but it is just shuffled into the rest of the noise of what's visible to you from other spaces. Hey, can I? No. Okay. Well, whoop. All right, I guess I'm going that way. And that's sort of like the say what you, well, say what I will. I was talking about this from like pure, like, legibility, almost breadcrumbing kind of considerations. But like, I feel like experientially, the player is also missing out, right? Because what you get when you, and I want to say Halo does this at times, and they got better with it as they went on. I remember a part in Reach where this works really well, where you're like going to the spaceship graveyard, and you start on a hill, and basically the only highlighted thing you see is this, like, you know, downed couple of spaceships in the distance, and you go, ah, that's the spaceship graveyard. And then you walk for a while, and then you finally get there, and you have this moment of like, yeah, I recognize I'm here now. I know where I am. I remember how far away that is. And the fact that I'm here now feels good. You have this like dopamine hit of like, I have done it. I have made progress. But in but in a situation like this where like the sightlines they were giving me were to everything, and it was so much visual information and sort of like noise, and nothing was highlighted from each other. I didn't recognize any of those future places, so when I get there, it means nothing to me, and you lose that dopamine hit. Mainly seems to be on the top. What do you mean on the top? I mean, again, whatever I'm saying, these maps are still like gorgeous and interesting and well detailed, and I've never had more than like the words I've had to say about like any of these maps. I think is all just like nitpicks. But you know, nitpicks are easier to talk about for a while. There's a weird, like... See, I almost thought that was a door because it had the same orange that they use on the doors. It's like... This is a map weak in sort of visual language, I think. Oh, good backpack. And just... no. Straight from Japan. I like a nice, easy secret. It's like, that looks like a dead end. There's a tiny secret if you just look at it. Okay, something unlocked that at some point. It still doesn't open? What? If it's unlocked, why can't I open it? Okay, listen here. Where am I going? That's a red door. That's a blue door. So I don't think I want to be in this complex yet. I hit a switch. Oh no, I have a blue. When did I get a blue key? Jeez. That'll be over here somewhere. That'll be specifically this one. Here's this room I was shooting at them from. See, even just the fact, like, a group of dead imps, and specifically imps only, and I'm like, okay, I remember a group of imps only. I saw them from over here. And, like, that's enough to be, like, memorable. Japan... Okay. I don't mean this as immediately bad as it's going to sound, but I want to say there is a weird sort of like culture of general fetishism in Japan, and without getting into like, you know, underage looking anime girls or any of the stuff like that, but like the culture of like somewhere between like everything being like the just models and dioramas all the way up to like the sort of like, you know, over, there's a weird enthusiasm for like guns and tanks, which sort of goes with the models and the airsoft, and like it sort of like bleeds into that. Like it's weirdly hobbyist, but I use the word fetish because it's just like that's just sort of my read on things when you get into the part of like, oh, I know specific model numbers of all of these military things as a civilian. Like it's just like, okay, this is not something you understand because of your, it's something you interact with in your daily life. This is like something you have gone out of your way to like recognize and research and very and take this sort of like deep attention to detail. Like it's almost the I mean, maybe the word is like detail fetish. Like I know I have that issue on a lot of things. Like, I mean, I do this show which is looking at very specific details of, you know, these maps in terms of level design, right? So I definitely get that. But like really when it gets into like, you know, if you can't watch a TV show or go to the airsoft range without thinking about like, it is upsetting that they have a silencer on this gun because that specific model was the one manufactured in, you know, 72 and did not have the attachment point for a silencer. Like, I'm glad you have this enthusiasm. I'm glad you have something you care about, and I can recognize the very sort of like nitpicky high memory mindset that leads you to have thoughts like that. But it's to me, I feel like that sort of like detail mindedness goes through the culture, because then you look at, you know, even getting away from like, you know, military spec stuff. If you look at the number of just like, you know, like model kits and dioramas, and I mean, if you want to wrap like, you know, traditionally, I don't know much about Japan, but I've heard of bonsai trees. Like this idea of like putting things in micro and making them like as small and as detailed as they are. And like there's a part of me that always consider like, hey, a big thing about Japan is A, they are an island nation, B, they are tiny, and that has to like there are, you know, definite ways that you see that being such a big thing, just sort of a constant thing you need to deal with in daily life. That's like, I'm trying to think of ones to say that aren't dumb, because I fully admit that I'm dumb on this subject, and like whatever I say is going to still be like 40 to 70% ignorance. But like when you're an island, like that's why, you know, sushi, because like you're an island nation, you're you have easy access to coast and fishing and all of that. But on the other hand, it is like primarily they have so much seafood base and so little of other things, because if land is at a premium, then you really can't afford to do the kind of like cattle and animal farming. Like you can't give up as much room to that. Like, not to say that there are no, farmlands and stuff like that, but when you have so little, when you have so little space versus, a high population, you do need to really work on optimization. And it's just like, okay, we have plenty of fish, so we're fed. We're not going to worry about anything else. Or you are, but the only real when I think of Japanese beef, my only thought is some of the highest quality beef you can get. It's like, if we're going to do it, we are going to do it super premium style, because it is, the land is at such a premium that if we're going to use it for this, we can't mess around. We have to do it good. So you say Wagyu beef, and I'm like, okay, when you're going to do it, you're going to do it hardcore. It's like, all right. What was my point on this? Oh, about their culture. So there's a lot of things about the culture that are oh, small diorama. This is me making a stretch, probably, but the idea of okay, space, everything is at a premium. So the idea of if you're going to have hobby things, they are going to be small scale things. Hey, we're in America, we have more land than sense, so yeah, golf courses and racetracks for recreational use on both fronts. Yeah, we're going to do that all the time. We're going to be big into cars and rich people shit. But that is, when space is at a premium, you don't do that. You focus on small things. So that's why, you can kind of have a racetrack, but it's going to be RC. It's going to be, the slot cars. It's going to be smaller on every scale. I mean, I wasn't really alive in the 80s, definitely not cognizant, so I can't say much about it, but the fact that I can buy a game right now on Steam where the protagonist can spend multiple hours just taking part in slot car races, and it is a distinctly Japanese culture based game, you're not gonna see. There's the in Yakuza 0, and I think they put it in Kiwami too. You can go and play slot car stuff. You're not playing slot car stuff in Watch Dogs and Watch Dogs 2 set in near future Chicago. It's just that. That is a weird I can see that being a thing about okay, no, location, physical, just very observable limitations between areas and between just situations that lead to distinct culture differences, right? And also talking about you know going once again back to COVID stuff, there's this argument in America about oh, masking is somehow a sign of a willingness to emasculate yourself, and it's just cool. But in Japan, again, it's small space, high population, so there is a very deep cultural significance of not bothering people, of just hey, trying to stick to yourself and sort of yeah, do your thing, do your small thing, you'll get your little space, and anyone who steps outside of that is such a bother because space is at such a premium compared to people. And masking is sort of a part of that. Hey, if you're going to be sick, don't let that bother other people. First word you should learn is, normally when you learn language, the first thing you need to learn is where's the bathroom? Donde está el baño? But in Japanese, number one thing you learn is konnichiwa sumimasen. With just I'm sorry. Chotto choto desu ka? Ex- well, it choto because choto is like excuse me, choto, like, and I've tried to learn Japanese from like 3 to 5 different sources, and like, yeah, sort of like, it's like, hello, I'm sorry. Those are some of the first things you learn. Um, I listen. You want to talk? That is okay. So I don't remember anything about source. I don't remember anything. I remember people trying to call it, names that really put the blame on China. I didn't look too much at that. I pay more attention on what is the proper way to deal with it. Who cares where it came from? Deal with it correctly. Um, but yeah, that is a failing of American culture, because American culture at this point is sort of um, believing outdated ideas of exceptionalism and confusing sort of individualism and freedoms with selfishness. Um, I could complain for 90 minutes straight, no problem, just about, faults in American culture that are sort of self-sabotaging in a major and quickening way, honestly. Um, but yeah, anything about like, you can't tell me to mask because that's you imposing on my freedoms. The answer to that has nothing to do with masking or freedoms. It's just, why don't you want to mask, given all of the evidence we have about masking helps, about, that's why I say at the end of every stream, your mask protects other people and vice versa. So if you don't want to mask, that is you saying, I take no interest or responsibility in the well-being of other people. I do not care about taking care of other people. And when you say, I do not care about taking care of other people, you have um, sort of just given a very succinct and honestly over generous description of the Republican Party as it stands today. Um, oh my God. Mm. But it's also, what was the original point? That Japan is at the top. Like, I think there are a lot of things. Okay, so look at the Wagyu beef example again. I think culturally, when you get into this, it's just like, we are, you know small nation, high population, especially when you're right next to like China and Korea and mainland countries who have a much bigger. Well, okay, depending on how you talk about like being, overtaken as territories, and like, oh, you're a separate nation, but really you do whatever we say. Like, I am not a geopolitical anything, so I don't know shit to say about that. But if you look at it very much, even if you just compare Japan to like the countries next to it, not even considering the um the what do you call it, America, which is a world away of difference, but it's going back to that Wagyu beef idea, that like, we are under such strict limitations because of our, circumstances, placement, whatever, as a nation and as a culture. And I think that idea of, if we're gonna do it, everything is at such a premium that we have to do it big. I think there is an element of that leads to that Japan is on top idea. There's I don't want to say there's a um because, and then you also look at, World War II, because after World War II, that's where you get to JVC, which stands for Japan Victory Company, which says, hey, we may have lost in combat because, again, America, because for Japan it's about ratio between space and population. And in America, we have so much space, and let me tell you about population, and sometimes the way you win a war is by having just more meat to throw into the grinder than your enemies. Becomes a war of attrition and what you're attributing is people. Other things I could go on about. This is not what I expected today's show to be about, but whatever, we're here. If I say something hateful, shut me up. But I'm trying to be fair to the best of my knowledge. But so there is this idea of like, especially in term of like commercialized industry and especially exported products, there was a like concerted cultural movement to be a victor there. I don't know, and that was like post World War II, which is still in recent memory, but like I don't know how much that has. You keep up that kind of thing only as long as you can until something else comes around. Like that's why. No, not that's why. That would be wrong. But like, you look at a lot of the idea of American exceptionalism came out of World War II, and not only did we win the war, but not only did we win the war, but our economy was so boosted by becoming a wartime economy that yes, we did have, we had baby boomers, we had money, we had all of this going on, considering that other nations just, like they just got wrecked by America. Maybe we even got better on like exports and better in an international sense like that. But like, you can only ride, you can only ride trends like that for so long. Like that's why, now that the baby boomer generation is on the decline, and we're seeing like, okay, who's the next generation up to pay attention to? It's just like, okay, millennials and debt and Black Lives Matters, and just like, cops are only you only think cops are good if you're rich, and nobody's rich anymore. Like, it's this weird idea that I had the other day that like, so there was that thing about there was that, it didn't even last long enough to really call it an interview, but in the wake of is it UVale? I haven't actually said it out loud yet. The shooting at the school in Texas, and a reporter approached Ted Cruz and was just like, hey, how come you're not doing any gun legislation when America is the only country that seriously has trouble with gun crime and killings and like constant shit. And his only response was to cut them off, repeat outdated concepts of American exceptionalism, and then just walk away, which doesn't mean you've won the argument. There are plenty of ways to end a conversation without winning it. Being the one to make it end does not mean you've won. Usually it just means you lost, or you were losing and needed to end it out of desperation to not be able to say, you lost it. But that's... Alright, so to go back to games then for a minute, that's one thing I really like about one of the Serlin games, Puzzle Strike, because when you're playing a 4-player free-for-all game, the way it works is as soon as one player loses, the game ends. And it does this weird thing where, like, if you're in second place, you are actually motivated to defend last place against first place until you're in first place, and then shut down last place. But it is this weird thing of like, no, we all need to protect each other against the winner, and the winner is just like, I need to end this now. Whereas, and it seems kind of like that, but the way you see a lot of, especially bad faith arguments, where the best argument you have is just repeating outdated ideas without backing them up, but and try to end the conversation before you get more wrecked is like being the player in third place going, I'm about to fall into fourth place, so I better kill fourth place and end the game before I get any worse. It's like, you did not win. You did end it. That's not all right. Okay, listen. That is not what Black Lives Matters means. That is not. And when people come back and say, like, well, don't all lives matter? Like, no. So you're missing what the problem is. That is, okay. The problem is, in America today, the way that Black people are constantly oppressed and villainized and made. I saw somebody on Facebook the other day that was just like, well, how come everyone's chanting BLM when some thug on the street gets what's coming to them? And it's just like, you made so many assumptions right there that proved your inherent bias that you don't even seem aware of, assuming that A, all black people are thugs, and B, thugs get what's coming to them. It's just like, okay, you just said, you just proved you have a lot of racist assumptions. But no, the point is that the way black people are treated in America today stems from a history of, slavery and oppression and racism. That is to say, slaves aren't people. If we compromise, there's 3/5 of a person. They are more property. In which case, the problem is that all, like, the way, the historical culture of America is Black lives don't matter because they are property. They are not people. So the statement of Black Lives Matter, no one ever said only Black Lives Matter. It is a correction on the historical, on the cultural history of America, of one of the cultural history, like, quote unquote facts of America is Black lives don't matter. This is a correction on that. It's like, no, Black lives do matter, in order to lift them up. Because it's like, you're right, all lives matter. Right now, Black people's lives are not being treated as if they matter. So it's just like, yeah, everything's over here, and then you have this dip. So when you say all lives matter, what you're doing is you're erasing that problem. The problem is that right now, Black lives are being treated like they don't matter. So saying Black Lives Matter is trying to correct that and bring them up to the normal. As soon as you say all lives matter, it's like, well, we should raise all tides. Well, if black people are down here and everybody else is like this, if you want to raise everybody equally, you raise it like this, you still have the fucking Black lives are being treated as mattering less issue. So you say Black Lives Matter until you're up here, then we can talk about treating everyone equally. The fact is that Black people are not treated equally. They are treated as though their lives don't matter. And the sentiment Black Lives Matter is to say, hey, the assumption is Black lives don't matter. This is how Black lives are treated. That's bullshit. Let me correct you on this point. Black lives do matter. So it is weird, like, there's this thing of like, okay, if I'm taking it with the biggest grain of salt imaginable, the idea that why are you saying that all lives matter does come out of this place of just like, yeah, no, we should be caring for everyone, including Black people. Like, cool, that's a great idea. You're missing the point. You're erasing the current matter detriment that Black lives are currently at. You cannot treat, and if you treat everyone equally at this point, you are actually keeping that disparity in place. And like, if you hear that argument and you still like are on the side of and that's the thing, at that point all lives matters, when it's even used as like a bad faith, like if it's a good faith thing that you're trying to be like, well, don't all lives matter, it's just like, okay, like, you're right, and that's why we need to remind people that includes Black people. That's why Black lives are being highlighted in the name of the movement, is because right now Black black lives are being treated as if they don't matter. It's like you have the full puzzle, all lives matter, and then the black piece is missing. It's like we need to say it out loud, right? Black lives matter too. That's part of all. If that's the good faith argument. If you're doing the bad faith argument on all lives matter, you're saying, let's not talk about black people. Let's not highlight black people. And the reason why that makes it a bad faith argument is because black people are the ones who have the biggest problem culturally in American history. So to say like, let's not talk about that little problem that we have means let's ignore the problem. It's like all lives matter, end of story. If that's the end of the story, it should be like all lives matter. Currently black people's lives are being treated as less valuable. That's a problem. That would be like the good faith version of that. And it's like, oh, black lives aren't being cared for. That's a problem. That flips around into Black Lives Matter. And then, so when it's the good faith, it's all copacetic. When it's the bad faith, you say, all lives matter. Let's stop talking about the problem with black people. And that's erasure of that problem. And when you erase that problem from the sort of broader cultural context, nobody addresses it. So saying all lives matter as erasure of the way black lives aren't being valued right now keeps that problem from being addressed. That is, continues that oppression. It's just like, let's not talk about it because then we won't address it. And so it can continue. The people the thing is, that's why you kind of only hear all lives matter as a bad faith argument, because people who come to it as a good faith argument follow the logic and see like, right, all lives do matter. That's why we need to focus on black lives to lift them up. And so people who try to say it as a good faith argument, if you follow the logic, you wind up at black lives matter. These are the ones we need to focus on until things are equal. And then what's left is the people saying all lives matter are just those who are using it in bad faith in order to erase the problem so that the problem continues, because whether they say it out loud or not, that means the status quo that they want to keep and enforce is the one where black lives aren't valued. So, and if you're in this weird in-between state where you think you're good faith, but you haven't followed that logic and bought into, you're right, Black Lives Matter is the way to portray this to highlight the problem, all you're doing is helping those who are on the side of the bad faith argument. It's just like, well, yeah, all lives do matter though. And it's just like, good, you just help them erase it. Erase talking about what the issue is. I'm putting that on the record that anybody who uses all lives matter, like, there is a version of all lives matter which is right. In terms of becoming a cultural movement in order to correct a problem that has persisted for centuries, the thing you say is Black Lives Matter, because you are correcting, you are addressing the problem, because the problem is that black lives are not being, or the value of black lives is lower by, the historical culture, the culture historically, whatever. And the way that you address that is like, everything's here, black people are here. Oh, right. Like, honestly, I feel like the closest I can do to compromising, which, again, if it's mostly used in bad faith, fuck compromising with them. They're not here to actually reach compromise or do anything useful. They're here to do that erasure and oppression. The closest I can do is just like, how would you feel if it was Black Lives Matter, comma, 2? That idea of like, hey, all lives matter. Reminder, that includes black lives. Hey, you see how black lives aren't mattering to a lot of people right now? Yeah, black lives matter too, that's sort of that's the best I can do in terms of compromise. But at that point, like, that is still sort of like blurring the edges of the issue. It's just like, no, black lives matter. We need to reinforce that until they are being treated equally. It's like, yes, all lives matter. That includes black people. Black lives matter. You can say white lives matter. You can say this and you can say that. It's like, nobody else needs the help right now. Maybe some people do, but, if we're going to deal with this biggest problem at a time, Black Lives Matter. That's the one we got to fix. It's the logic isn't that hard, and I can see how people want to like make it not a racial problem, because anything racial is like politically charged and people don't want to deal with like politics, because that's always a mess, because you have assholes like Ted Cruz who have turned politics into yelling the lies that you want people to continue to believe so that you can continue to do whatever the fuck you want, oppress who you want, be selfish and not care about whoever you want, because you confuse selfishness with independence and personal freedoms. I forget where the sentence started. Fuck Ted Cruz. I'll put that on the record too, just as its own independent statement. See, that's the thing. Like I can believe that there are people who are like, yeah, Black Lives Matter too, you know. It's just like, it's there. I think there's a lot of people who look at it and like are trying to be the not racist and be like, well, then we don't focus on them because of race. It's like, no, you focus on them because they have a problem. And then when you follow it, you realize, oh, the problem is because of their race, because their race has been treated like shit, let's say up to the present day. The thing that messed with me is when people started pointing out like, oh, you know, all of the pictures you see of the civil rights movement and the Million Man March and all of that, they're all in black and white. All the ones that they show, there are color pictures of that event because that happened within our parents' lifetimes. You don't even have to go back and ask Grandpa what civil rights movement was like, you know? And that's the fact that is... All right, I want to finish the other point first, because I do feel like I need to go on record about this, because I think about it enough. I don't know how many times I've actually said it out loud to an audience. Politics is not a topic. Politics is a set of techniques. Yeah, you know? But see, right now I am trusting you to being one of those in good faith. And the fact that you can at least get onto like the BLM2 and see how that sort of connects to logic, I'll give you a pass for today. But like that is a thing. Like, I'm not here to like avoid politics and avoid serious discussions. I am here to look at details and follow logic and show how, and show, you know, sort of it, like in a science class when you know, in chemistry class when the teacher comes in and goes, hey, when you put this in water, it explodes, and everybody's like, okay, I guess I'll just tuck that away as a whatever. And I'm here to go, no, watch, I have some of it in some water, and just bloop, and then you see it, and then you remember it, and you get all the follow through as to why. Like, so there's this idea, like, okay, I guess this is the rest of the stream now. I'm okay with that. When people talk about don't get political, politics are a set of techniques for gaining supporters of your side. So right now, the politics I engage in are those of showing the logic, describing the faulty logic that is used to counter it, and sort of discrediting faulty logic. But this, I am engaging in like being political right now, because my goal here is to, you know, draw people to my side of the argument. That's what politics is the act of trying to draw people to your side of the politics. That's to your side of, you know, an argument, a standpoint, whatever. So like, a lot of, like, so there's this weird thing where like when you hear people say, why do you have to get so political, really that all that means is you've brought up a subject from the opposite standpoint that they are on of it, and they are taking offense at sort of having convincing arguments thrown at them, whether or not that was your intent. But so that's the thing. When people say I didn't come here for politics, that means I didn't come here to be convinced of anything. I came here to not have my standpoints challenged, regardless of what my standpoints are. Like, but there's this weird thing that you really only hear it sort of turned into that argument of why'd you have to get political when that person's take on that topic is the side of being an asshole. That's correlation from my experience. That may not be the case everywhere, but that's the way I've always seen it. So like, but that's the thing about it. It's not that So if a given if somebody's saying that a given topic is political, that just means that this is a topic that people have strong standpoints on. Like at some point, it's the sort of like, is it ad nauseum argument here? The sort of like taken to its illogical extreme example is like, if I tried to play, Metal Gear Solid 1, and I had no problem with the fact that circle is accept and X is cancel, even though it's not the bottom face button for accept, and somebody said like, oh, you're gonna play it that way? It's why I didn't come here to have your political ideas shoved down my face. Like, it's kind of like that. It's like, oh, you disagree with it. You disagree with my standpoint on it, and because we hold opposing standpoints, but I'm the one in front of the audience and therefore is in a position to make the argument for it, therefore this topic is now political, right? Which is stupid, because A, politics is not subjects, it's actions, it's techniques. But B, like, the problem there is not that it's political. The problem is that you cannot accept that other standpoints than your own exist, which that is a weird one to me. That is, I mean, to me that reads as anti-American, because the whole thing about America is the melting pot, the mixing of ideas, the, get everybody together until everyone is the same, kind of gray colored culture that has the best of everything and the worst of nothing, That's my take. It's a weird one, especially when you say it out loud, but like that's my take, is like, oh, everyone kind of like taking all these different things and homogenizing it by filtering out the worst of everything and taking the leftover best of everything and mixing it all together until everything is kind of everything. Like, yes, American, that sounds like the end goal of American culture to me. And it also sounds good if it's just the best of everything. And instead what we've gotten is this America where the sort of culture that is the culture, the homogenization of which is attempting to be enforced because it's not happening naturally, is the one about be selfish and shoot anyone who disagrees with you. That's what American culture is actually sort of becoming through concerted effort of a political nature, of people being convinced that no, whether through truth and facts and logic or complete bullshit. Like that's the weird thing. Like, at some point presenting facts is political because it's just like, hey, I am trying to change your mind, but there's a difference between I'm trying to change your mind by saying the bullshit I want you to believe and just yelling it over and over and over until that's the only thing you can think of, versus, hey, I think this because I saw this. Let me show this same thing to you and we'll see if you arrive at the same result, right? That's like, that is a version of politics because it is about changing minds. But it is, the difference is like, one is through yelling, one is through like collaborative observation and analysis, Because like honestly, if I show you something and I say I saw this and it made me come to this conclusion, if you say, all right, I'm looking at that but I'm coming to this conclusion, that's actually super interesting to me. And again, maybe it's just my mind, but I love the process of comparing notes. I'm like, wow, really, you came to something else? I love that. That's making me smarter. That's making me better on some version. There is a selfish reason behind that, because I want to get better, and of being able to understand your perspective. Like, all right, so this is the thing I've been on my mind a lot lately, is like, humans are not a hive mind. More than that, the things we actually know are super limited, because human perspective is limited. You know, if you look at something, you're looking at it from where you're looking at, you know. You see the side of it that you're looking at. But if, you know, topics are big and complex enough, what it looks like from one side might be completely different than what it looks like from the other side. So really, the only way for either of us to get the full picture of something is to share information. And even if it seems like that information conflicts, the fact that, you know, again, as long as it's good faith, and it's like, well, this is my perspective on it, and you say, well, this is my perspective on it. If those perspectives don't match, that doesn't necessarily mean anyone is lying. That means the thing that we're looking at is complex enough that the perspective on it matters. And really, the reason we need to compare notes is because ultimately the only way for either of us, and ideally both of us, to get the full picture, the full, like, closest to reality picture of what we're looking at, is to compare our notes and be like, okay, these points conflict, but assuming we are both being truthful, how does it conflict? What is the gap between them that connects them and makes them make sense together, you know? If you have one person who looks at something and they believe that their perspective on it is the full universal perspective, and if anyone says differently, they are wrong or lying, I kind of don't trust anybody who is at that, who works on that level, because it's just like, okay, so you are like you are not aware of your own minusculeness within the universe. You are rejecting the idea that, and like that's, so again, you want to talk about problems with American culture, the idea of like individual exceptionalism. It's just like, no, so most of the greatest things that happen are not done by individuals, but they are done by lots of work. But we love the sort of the auteur idea, the, like, you know, Bill Gates in his basement, never mind the loan from mommy and daddy. But it's just like, oh no, single people can do great things. It's like, yeah, you know who can do great things more and quicker? A lot of people working together. So the idea that anybody's just like refusing to, if somebody calls a different perspective wrong or lying, instead of working together to gain information and see how these conflicting, contrasting perspectives are possible, they are refusing to work together. They are refusing to learn more, and ultimately they are limiting themselves and sort of like not contributing to what could be greater good and greatest accomplishments. And it's this weird, like, not only is it weirdly like selfish, that comes with a version of putting other people down by calling them wrong, by calling them liars. It becomes very accusational with putting them in the right, which, by the way, trying to convince people that you're in the right could itself be a version of politics, or would require politics to occur. But like, you're putting other people down and sort of invalidating them, which makes you the asshole. But on the other side of it, it's self-destructive, because you are rejecting other information that could, you know, expand your view, expand your own understanding, and you would prefer to live selfishly in your own little bubble where you are never challenged. And it's just like, at that point, that's, you know, Even if there are ways to manage to do that without putting other people down and without being that, asshole to other people about it. But it still is like a reason to pity them, because it's just like, oh, you're living in your own bubble, and you'll never, as long as you fight to keep that bubble intact, you're never going to grow bigger than that bubble. And you can see exactly how, great of a person you will forever be. It's I have really lowered my Twitter use. So the other thing about it, and listen, this is going to be a big surprise, but I'm pretty sure I'm on the autistic spectrum. And so sort of like communicating has always been trouble for me. And most of my life, trying to express my ideas and my understandings have always been taken as me trying to start shit, because I'm just like, hey, here's the piece that I know is true. And I guess there's something about the tone of voice I use, or I think very much the way I phrase my thoughts, and just like the sort of like, the sentence structures and specific words I pick, and like pieces of context that I choose to include, just get read by other people as, wow, he's, trying to prove that he's right, and he's what a jerk. And it's just like, I'm not trying to prove that I'm right. I'm trying to be very clear about, my position. So again, if we have, or not position, perspective. Because again, the more information we have about each of our perspectives, we can compare notes, and together, even when things conflict, we can work out, well, if we are both being truthful and we both see these different things, there must be something that we're both missing that makes it make sense. That is honestly like a thing I sort of like, a motto I picked up like back in high school. Like, if something makes sense, that doesn't mean the thing is broken. That means your perspective isn't complete. Like, if something is extant, if multiple perspectives are extant, even if they conflict, there must be a way for them to make sense together. Sometimes the way that they make sense is just come and go and like, oh, this person was lying about that. Okay, so we dismiss all the things they were lying about. Hey, now the rest makes sense. Sometimes it's like, well, these don't make sense together. Oh, there was this other thing that was existing that explains the difference. Like yeah, there's always more to learn. Like it's kind of this weird take of like, everything I need to know I learned in kindergarten. Like, that is such a ridiculous phrase, but kind of in the vein of everything I need to know I learned from my own solo perspective without gaining any information from other people's perspective. Like, that is just as ridiculous to say, if not more. Because at least in kindergarten, you're learning from a teacher, and that is somebody else's perspective. And they have a book, which can be many other people's perspective. And it's just like, yeah, you would learn more in kindergarten than by only ever trusting your own perceptions, honestly. Like, that's why, I really think that, like, the summation of the greatest, like, not human accomplishment, but, like, in terms of, like, human, like, evolution, in terms of, is Wikipedia. Yeah, people can lie in it. Yeah, you got to remember to check it. Yeah. But, like, humans as a race, as a species. Yeah, as a species, that's the word. Like, humans as a species, by inventing the internet, which allows us to all be connected, at nearly effectively instantaneously, which allows us to share thoughts and perspectives and ideas and recorded information, and being able to, and now, with smartphones, putting that in our pocket, like, literally everyone is connected to everyone else at the same time. Humans have basically invented a technology that has turned our species into a hive mind. And if I know anything from, space science stuff, it is like, yeah, hive minds are incredibly powerful and incredibly, like, they are efficient at things, they are right about things because they have a million perspectives on the same thing. And so you can get the full picture because you have a million perspectives on it. You can look at it from every angle and see every perspective at once. And if you, by having an awareness of what those perspectives are and how they are limited, you can also see where the gaps in those perspectives are, and you can send something else to go and look at it where the gap is and fix that. And a hive mind can have the closest to like true perception. Granted, okay, a lot of the things we have about like higher sentient hive minds does come from science fiction, which is written by people who do have this same limited perspective problem. So but we can imagine it, we might not be right about how it actually works, but we can imagine it and we can see what some of the benefits are. So I think Twitter is actually good because if you take a lot of the like hot takes bullshit you see on Twitter, and again, you take that sort of like self-defense part of trying to put other people down, you strip that out of it. You take the part about calling other people wrong or lying or bullshitting, you strip that out of it. You take all of the parts left that are just like the information gathered from that person's perspective, and you start shoving that together, then you do start to get this like multi-perspective, near hive mind, 3D surround sound perspective on things. And it is usually like the amalgamation is usually closer to like a universal truth than whatever your single perspective has, and you have to strip a lot out of it. You have to verify a lot of it to be like, okay, who's just lying, who is working off of false assumptions that they made, and what was the actual thing they observed that then they drew the false assumption from. So there is a lot of stuff that you have to strip out. But if I'm super autistic spectrum, my brain is doing that shit nonstop anyways. Like, I have trouble sleeping. I have trouble staying awake. Both are true. But I always have trouble staying awake because I feel exhausted all the time. And the realization that's like, oh, my brain is constantly running at 110%, CPU capacity because this is just how my brain works. Not by choice. It's just how my brain works. It's just like, oh, I get it. I am doing this kind of work nonstop. Okay, I get it. But like, even you're listening to me right now, and like, I'm here, I'm in front of a camera, I'm talking, I am theoretically being political because I am trying to win people over to my standpoint simply by describing my standpoint. I'm not trying to, yell lies at people until they give in and believe it. I'm trying to actually like present convincing ideas instead of convincing you by force. But like, I forget where I was about to go with that because I got to... Oh, this is all... Anything I'm doing, talking to a person, talking to an audience, doing whatever, this is extremely practiced because I have spent so long being misinterpreted, being, and maybe that's like a weird thing on me because it was just like, if somebody misinterprets me, my assumption is always be, I must have said it wrong if you didn't understand me, not you must be an idiot for not understanding me. I've always sort of taken that onus on myself because you know what I can do? I can make myself better. I can't fix you. You can't help somebody if they don't want to be helped. So if you're wrong and you're content that way, I can't force you to improve. I can make myself better though, because I can recognize it and choose to improve on it. But the point of this is, I have spent literally decades working on, okay, if I'm trying to present this point, how do I not present it as absolute truth? How do I present it at I am fail? How do I do this without making the other person feel threatened? How do I do this with including the most context possible for clarity reasons before hitting the point where I sound like I'm condescending and then once again offending the person I'm talking to? The idea of like, how do I present the most accurate without offending the other person is also exhausting and very practiced. That's the thing. This has been all trial and error for literally decades. Yeah, listen. Apparently we hit on a top. This started with talking about Japanese exceptionalism, and Okay, as soon as we hit sort of the like like immoral use of all lives matter versus the functional use of Black Lives Matter. Again, listen, if Black Lives Matters 2 makes more sense for you and like helps you to understand that, like, oh, the what we are trying to do is highlight this problem, not, you know, discredit, you know, not ignore everything but this problem. But again, even if you say it like that, like, if everything else is fine and this is a problem, yeah, ignore everything else until this isn't a problem anymore. Like, if you're in the mindset of what are things that are problems because I'm in fixing things mode, yeah, focus on the problem. Don't focus on the things that aren't problems right now. That's that. What was it? It's like, I mean, shit. It was that political comic that was like the firefighter who was, you know, spraying water on a perfectly fine house when the house across the street is on fire, and he's going, well, all houses matter. Like, okay, at this point in time, political cartoons are cringy. Cringe is a social construct based on embarrassment. It's based on shame in that way, so it is a way for, like, emotional social control and pressure to be done. You cannot be embarrassed when you're alone unless you have internalized the pressures from other people. A person who has never met anyone else cannot be embarrassed. It is a social mechanic. Where was I going with this? Where did I come from with this? Oh, cringy. Political cartoons are cringy. Political cartoons are cringy at this point because they are very bald-faced politics. And that it's just like, oh no, any political cartoon, whether you agree with it or not, is so clearly trying to convince you of something that it's going to feel like politics, and it's going to feel cringy because we're all sick of politics, because there's so much unhealthy politics, which is just yelling your viewpoint, whether it's true or not. That's why I always favor this, like, let's start with something we agree on and follow the logic, and then see and then see which of our conflicting standpoints it leads to. I've always preferred that, and I've always preferred the, like, let's just look at the same evidence together and let's compare notes on what we look at. Those are the ones I've always preferred, because whether you are telling something that is a truth based on the logic you have followed, or complete bullshit that you just care about other people following, just yelling your standpoint is bad politics and is upsetting politics, and is usually how you end up at fights. The difference, God, this is something even longer. The difference between a discussion and an argument / fight is that in a discussion, progress can be made and viewpoints can be changed. In an argument, everyone is just yelling and nothing of value happens out of it. So like, yeah, that version of politics that is just yelling your standpoint, doesn't matter if it's true, doesn't matter if it's bullshit, it just makes people tired. Hey, wait, I got one of those. It just makes people tired and upset, and everyone's kind of worse off for it. Discussions are better. The part that makes people trigger happy is that genuine, open, clear, good faith discussions are also politics. But we have been so conditioned to think of politics as the scream your viewpoint until the other side gives up, that's why, you know, politics is now something everybody wants to avoid, because the politics generally practiced in this country are this exhausting, unproductive one. Thing to not forget is that there is a good, it almost becomes this thing of like, hey, a fun discussion that we can have on a screen while DooM is in the background. There's still somebody over there I need to shoot, I'm pretty sure. The idea of like a fun discussion that we have on a stream while we're just hanging out, where everybody is like still having fun with it and still engaged and interested and like has the enthusiasm for learning, doesn't feel like politics. But politics as ways to win people over to your viewpoint, if an honest discussion is happening where both people are sharing their viewpoints and both people are willing to change their viewpoints, that is still politics. but it is the like the way it has to be done in today's culture is the equivalent of we have to wrap the dog's pill in peanut butter so that he doesn't know he's taking his medicine. It's really what we're at. It's very really what we're at. Like, it's, if it comes from a politician, you go, it's politics. The only politics I know is people yelling at each other. I'm not doing it. Political cartoon, same thing. People starting a explicitly political movement, same thing. You might agree with them, but because it is politics, and because politics, as we commonly know it, is people yelling at each other, it's exhausting, and everybody winds up upset, people avoid politics. People want to avoid politics. There's this, I didn't actually drink it, I opened it, but humans come with a built-in enthusiasm for learning. We have it when we're a child, because that is literally like, it's like, yes, first you learn to use your own perception to start understanding the world. And then the next step is you start asking questions of other people to learn things about the world. Because then, like, there's the one version of you can experience it via proxy, where you just sort of take their perspective and say, I understand it, I'll take that and I'll use that. Or then the third step is when you start combining them and go, you have a perspective, I have a perspective. Oh, they're different. Let's compare notes and get a bigger picture, a fuller picture. And I think people do like to do that. Learning is fun. That is a weird thing about games, is learning is fun. Pushing boundaries and discovering things is fun. What happens if I push this button? Can I make this happen? What happens if I combine these three? These things are fun. Learning is fun. But politics is just miserable. So there's this weird thing that we have to remember, that like sometimes politics can be teaching and learning. We just have to not call it politics right now. Oh, there's a little bit of this left. And honestly, I think I'm qualified might be the wrong word, but I think I'm well experienced at that, since my autistic ass has been trying to sort of deliver trivia and information and perspectives for the sake of being entertaining and enjoyable, without feeling like I'm forcing ideas down people's throat, which I'm not trying to do, but apparently that is the way I sound. That has been my entire life, is trying to wheel down sounding like I'm forcing it down your throat, and wheel up, we're just having a fun discussion. So yeah, I feel like, honestly, that's, and so this is why, like honestly, the reason I had turned off chat on these, I had it on before, but I just felt it was distracting, because maybe we might chit chat about, little ideas about other things, about whatever, when really this has been a show that I designed for, or I intended for, just like almost more as a lecture. It's like, we're gonna experience the level together, and then I'm going to take my game design experience and knowledge and sort of put that on top, like, again, more peanut butter. We're just going to spread that on top of the lovely DooM toast, and that'll, add to the experience, and then that's the product that is the show. And having a chat where we could like chit chat about any nonsense at all honestly felt like it was detracting from that original intent. So that's why I usually don't have chat bubbles on this show. But honestly, if I'm going to have it on, and I'm going to have it, and it is going to open up the chance that we're going to fall into a really heavy subject like this, guess what? I can kind of turn all of those fun versus convincing valves off, or set them back to normal rather, and then it becomes, great, I have an audience, I have a soapbox, let me do my own politics and try to help you understand why doing it this way is acceptable, and doing it this way makes you an asshole. See how we arrived at Black Lives Matter 2. Um, the sequel. No, wait, hang on. So like, yeah, I'm not. And maybe that's the thing about me. Maybe that's the thing about this understanding that I have, because I have this like, I kind of have this hair trigger for when people say politics, because when somebody else says politics, I know that they mean people yelling at each other, and I'm like, you're right. I don't want to deal with that. That's not useful and not enjoyable, and it's just miserable. But when I just think of politics in a vacuum, I understand it means both that, which is bad politics, and like conversations where both sides can learn, which is actually interesting and entertaining, and technically that also falls under politics. Nobody is going to call that politics, but like I have this understanding that that is politics. So like when we get to a heavy discussion like this, I know it's just like, okay, this is a teaching moment. This can be a learning moment. This can be a chance for me to, especially if somebody else brings it up and they seem willing to, like, you know, you have to figure out how they bring it up, because some people are just going to say it up. It's just like, Black Lives Matter is a racist take on the problem. It's just like, okay, you have just made a statement about reality that tells me that you are one of the people who believe that your perspective is representative of the entirety of reality on that subject, and that you do not question it yourself, and you're probably not willing to change it, because as soon as I introduce another one, you're going to see the conflict, and then you're going to assume that that goes down the road of yelling your standpoint at each other, and it's politics, and you object to be getting political, and it sucks. I see it, and I see it's like, oh, well, you're saying it kind of like this, and you have a certain doubt in it yourself, and that's the door crack that I wedge my foot in and go, great, let's have a fun conversation, and we're going to start it there, and we're going to work together on having this conversation and following this logic and hopefully learning from each other. Like, I'm always willing to learn stuff from people I disagree with. Like, you can learn more from people you disagree with. That was a fucking episode of House was based on the exact idea that it is more useful and you can learn more from people who disagree with you and don't arrive at the same conclusions that you arrive at. That was if it was an episode of House, a show that went on for so long, then it's like, cool, this is like a tired idea now. Like, we should just have accepted it by now. But yeah, like, if you have somebody who disagrees with you, but you both come to the disagreement with this idea of, I am willing to accept new evidence, observations, whatever that could change my mind. It was a great thing. Shout outs to the podcast Oh No, Ross and Carrie, with Ross Blotcher and Carrie Poppy. They're great. They're on the Max Fun Network. If you like the kind of ways I talk, I would absolutely go check them out. They do like, what do you call it? Not satirical. Not categorical. Definitely not that. Wait, they made a game called Categories. How was that allowed? Skeptics. They are both part of like some major skeptics group, and they do a lot of things about like, hey, we're gonna test the claims of like homeopathy and Reiki, and deal with stuff like exorcisms and psychics, and like they do all of that and kind of just have a good time laughing at how like ridiculously easy it is to disprove their claims, basically. But one of the best things I ever heard is, I believe Carrie, it was, because she also does like journalism stuff, so she does a lot of interviews and things. She was talking about an interview she did with like I want to say it was a group of priests, and they arrived at a disagreement, and like the first thing she did was stop and say, all right, you have your standpoint and I have mine. Can you think of any evidence I could possibly bring for you to look at that would make you change your mind? And like out of like 5 priests, only one could say, yeah, there is something that you could bring me that would change my mind, and the rest just said, no, nothing will ever convince me otherwise. And the conversation ended with everyone, but then restarted with the one who said that they could change their mind. And like there's the thing about it, because the 4 who said you cannot change my mind, those are the people where a discussion doesn't happen and you just have people yelling their viewpoints in as many different versions as they can come up with. And then there's this one who is like, yes, there is a place where you can wedge your foot in and you can start changing my mind. And it was like a really fathomable, I'm losing my vocabulary. It was a really profound moment for like everyone in the room, because like the fact that it shut down the yelling argument before it could get started, and everyone just like agreed, this will not end well, let us simply not continue. And they were in agreement on that, which is great. It's the only thing they agreed about. But it was this moment of like even them realizing my mind is closed on this, and the one going, actually I could see how my mind could be changed. And it was this sort of like slow, it was like this realization that there was a doubt in them. There was a willingness to have their mind changed. And to me, you know, when you talk about good and bad faith arguments, I think that sort of realization that you have a doubt, that you could have, are willing to have your mind changed, even if it takes a very specific wedge to continue down that path. The fact that the self-awareness that gap exists at all is necessary to have like a real good faith discussion. I got a whole other thing about the definition of what an opinion is. I'm gonna skip that one for now because my voice is already getting tired. Yeah, and honestly, you know, like I said, I'm very practiced at trying to like have discussions without sounding like I'm trying to force a standpoint, and I still fail at it. That's the thing, is I'm still, to this day, I still fail at it. I'm trying, but I fail at it, and I end up getting in, you know, what people at least feel like is just being a yelling argument. And, you know, you try to improve. You apologize, like, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this. I'll try to be better. And that's sometimes the best you can do. If you're trying, I'll give a lot of people credit for earnestly trying. Yeah, the thing about it is, like, I only get worked up enough to try to towards like an argument like that when I'm at the point of when I'm at the point of like, hey, I think you're being an asshole right now, but I also don't think you mean to be an asshole right now. Let me help you be the better person that you're trying to be. That's it's like, oh, you think you're being a good person, but you are messing up. Let me help you be a better person, right? That's usually when I end up down that track where I'm like, hey, I'm gonna start showing you the arguments that you may not necessarily want to have, or you might not be ready for, or you're probably just gonna reject because it's coming up seemingly out of nowhere for you because you think you're being fine. And that's is a thing. I learned this in like Psychology 101. Um, but honestly, it is kind of universal. Actually, it wasn't Psychology 101, it was Abnormal Psychology. I think this is really a universal, and it's been something that's like really adjusted the way I approach like all human interactions. But the idea is you can't help people who don't want to be helped, who are unwilling to accept help. Because and especially like psychologically, like help means change. Um, and basically a change that is unwelcome or unwanted is an attack. And I think that logic works out because like I'm sitting here right now, and if somebody said, "Hey, you got too much blood inside of you. Let me help you with that," and come at me with a knife, it's like, no, no, no. I do not wish to change this. You are trying to force this change upon me. You're trying to, you're trying to force it. I am not welcome. Like if I was, uh, one of them bloodletting doctors, I might go, you know what? You're right. I do have much blood. Here, come over with that knife. Help me out here. And I'd be willing to accept it. And then it wouldn't be an attack. Then it would be received as the help it was intended as. But, and again, this is kind of a universal thing I've come to understand. Intent doesn't matter. Kind of the way it's received is the thing that matters. And if you intend to help, but it is received as an attack, you have attacked. And honestly, when it comes to like that's why yelling arguments happen, because if both sides sort of engage in the politics of I think you would agree with me if you only saw it from my perspective, and you're trying to like help each other see your perspective, but neither one of you is willing to accept the help of changing your perspective, then both are going to get defensive because both are feeling attacked, because they both feel like they are having this change of perspective forced upon them, and nobody likes that. Like honestly, like that's and this is a very personal experience. No judgment of anybody else, but like I always feel worried about like, I don't know if this has ever actually happened, but the idea of like somebody on crutches or in a wheelchair and just being like, oh hey, you need help getting up the staircase, getting onto the whatever, do you need help? And it's just like sometimes even asking is like the start of that force, because it's like some people, they would absolutely love the help, you're making their day easier. Some people, the thing that matters more to them is like a pride thing, is that masculinity thing of like, no, I can take care of myself, I'm an individual, how dare you suggest I need help? And it's just like, it's like even if you're straight up just like asking and offering help, that can be taken as either a, that can either be welcome help, or that can be taken as like an attack, a suggestion of needing help, a suggestion of weakness. And like so that becomes a thing. It's just like, and with somebody you know nothing about, and you're just like doing this sort of like out of the blue, like that is such a minefield that like it makes me scared to offer help, because I don't know if I will accidentally be attacking, which I think is a bummer, because that encourages me to offer help less, which I feel bad about, but it is also like a self-protection thing. I don't know, it's a lot of this stuff is hard, okay? Like I have the best answers I have come up with. I do not have the absolute universal be-all end-all correct answers, and a lot of things I don't have answers for. I get the question, but I'm still working on any answer at all. But yeah, you can't help anyone who doesn't want help. Any unwelcome change is an attack, and especially in politics, and between yelling at each other, politics becoming the norm, like people are so like hair trigger sensitive to this idea. But again, going back to the Carrie Poppy interview, the idea of just starting with, is there any willingness in you to sort of accept the change I have to suggest is such like a profound, like it's profound just to realize like that is a part of the exchange, the interaction. Like there's another thing for autistics that is like the colored wristband, if you know you're one of the ones that like have trouble like verbally expressing things, but it's just like, you know, green, I'm okay to talk to people today. Orange, I can talk, keep it short, no touching. Red, do not talk to me at all because that will upset me just by the very nature of it. Like I would love it if like, and it's weird because it kind of exists on social media when you can write your own bio and say like, here are the topics I'm willing to engage with, here are the topics I'm willing to not, but just something upfront ahead, that say like, okay, here are things I'm willing to have my mind changed about, here are the things that I am not willing to have my mind changed about, and you just know, okay, I'm going to avoid talking about these, we're good to talk about these, because it's not going to be split between light and heavy. It is going to be split about like things where you have like insecurities and your defenses double down on your own personal rightness, and things which kind of just are free and open and are still things that you are able to like enjoy learning about. And like, it's what topics those are really are different for everyone. It's just this wild point that like everyone, enough people understand that politics means screaming match, so politics has become a red for everybody. All right, I'm gonna play some more game now. Oh, okay. There's people over there. This is some kind of airlock. I did not step all the way in here last time. Okay, orange walls. See, I kind of remember looking through a window and seeing orange walls, but I have no idea where I was when I looked out that window. Is this gonna spawn boys? Alright, not this time. See, okay, oh, okay, so the soul sphere in the window is a pretty good, like, from anywhere on the outside, that is like a pretty good, like, iconic set piece. That is a thing you rotate around, you recognize. But like, this was the part that my eyes locked onto and I remembered. The fact that this weird standalone pier was part of it, I had no idea that this is where I was when I was here. Because when you are here, you don't see the iconic thing. You don't recognize that you are in the space that you would recognize. Because this is iconic. This just looks like a piece of stage. It could be a window. It could have been something else. Like, I had not seen this part before. I only saw the iconic part. And when I was here, I did not see the iconic part, so they never felt connected, you know? And again, kind of to connect it back, like, when I say, like, hey, this is why this is broken on a piece of level design like this, like, again, if you considered it and, you know, your intent was to make it broken, cool, fine. I'm just, you know, I'm presenting considerations. If you've already considered them and you decided against it, cool. We're done. Something just teleported, didn't it? It is kind of that thing of like when you do something, it was not my, you know, considered intention to do it one way or another, so stop complaining about it, is different than, you know, saying I never considered it at all versus I considered it and decided against it. Like, that comes back to the kind of same thing, right? Like, the idea of if you considered it and decided against it, you can say that. We'll get on the same page, and I won't call it a bad thing because it was intentional. It was as decided. It was my misunderstanding was why you wouldn't do it, but you know, it's your decision. I don't need to understand why you did it the way you did it. You chose to do it that way. All right, that's fine. But if you never considered it one way or the other, it's weird to me to like get offensed that I would suggest, hey, if you didn't consider it before, here's just like here's a something for you to learn. This is a thing you may want to consider. Because if it's broken on purpose, cool. If it's broken because you just didn't think about it, didn't know to look for it, well, then the next one will be better. Regardless of which way you go, it will be better if you consider it. You know, that's usually my take on it. But to like get defensive of just like, why would you tell me this thing that I never thought of in the first place? It's just like, I don't know, because thinking about it usually helps. And we get back to trying to help. The help is unwelcome, and so it gets defensive. Like, all right, okay, fine. How much more map? Whoops. Right, red key. Okay, between just the layout of this map plus taking maybe an hour there to talk about a lot of shit, I have no idea where the red door goes. It's good. It's on the map. Okay, is that connected or is that... Okay, wait. This is the teleporter we hit that got us over here. So I just dropped the thing to a new teleporter that's ideally going to get us back. And this was the room with the Mancubus in it. Because this is that weird indoor feeling hallway. That was the crate with the backpack behind it. Okay. So I want to get back. And I want to go back through the blue door to get to the red door to get up here. And that might be the ending. 2 red doors. Okay. Or did that red door just go outside here? And is this connected or is this separate? That's the thing. I can't tell if this is one room or 2. And up there looks like it might just be the finish. We got a little space down here. We got a little space up here, but I don't know about that. Something shooting at me? Oh, I can't reach me. Okay, this is going to be... Oh, this is where we came in. So we're going to go back out here. Back here. Okay, good. Both of you. So the one I don't know... Okay, it is 2 rooms because these pillars are an up wall. It's not something I can hop over. Unless, can I step up here? I can get over here. But there's still this hard gate. Hey, exit. Good. That is the way to go. You see, that's my thing. Like, you can make a map that is confusing, and you really gotta get good at like reading maps in order to interpret it and really navigate it efficiently. But I do value a map where, like, just from like generally. Like, unless it is your specific intent to create that experience, I think sort of like a good default choice is to make a map that is pretty, you know, intuitively navigable on site by using your visual cues, your set pieces, your eye lines, etc., etc. Man, these boys, really weird. To put this door between me and the boys. I don't necessarily understand how this door operates. I like that, it's fancy. I'd like a good blue space though. The blue and black, I got hang on, I gotta part the veil. They're Venetian blinds. Oops. Thank you. So I've got here for this one, I'll switch back to this scene. This scene. I love blue and black. I got these very cool dice. They're metal. They're what? Wrong way. How do I focus? I don't know if this camera can focus that close. I think blue and black is a very good color combo. This one is more blue and white with the gold numbers, but any sort of blue swirls. See, now these are cool because they're they look like they're blue and white, but that white is actually glow in the darkness. It's not going to show up. It's too light down here. What are the blue and black? Yeah, I will take a very like blue and purpley with sparkles for space. I absolutely love that. I have a lot of dice. Actually, again, this isn't blue and black, but it is like blue with veins of gold sparkles in it. Yeah, purple and black is that too. Well, I'm just showing stuff off. These are very, like, they're blue. They're kind of like a blue and teal swirl, which is already nice. But then it has, like, extra green sparkles in them. And not only that, these are the dice I got for Extra Life. Actually, here, if I... Whoop. There you go. Got the Extra Life symbol on them. They came in a fancy case, but the case was opaque, and I said, I want to see these all the time. So I got these very... well, I made these very... clear, pretty plastic tubes to store dice in. These Extra Life dice are also like a little bigger than standard dice, which is kind of crazy to me. Like, here. These are a pretty standard size, and if you just look at even like the D20, like, it's very slight, but they are just bigger enough that like they barely fit in the tube. And the real crazy thing is you compare them to these metal dice, which are like way smaller than standard dice, and you can really tell even just looking at the top, because this is the same number of dice, and look how different the gap is. I just like any excuse to show off my dice. I got a lot more. I got a lot of these square cubes. This one just has some assortment. This one is all dice from the Pokemon like Elite Trainer packs that have the icons of the sets. This red lily pad looking thing is actually the Gyarados symbol, so I love those. I really gotta get back into D&D or something. I have so many dice and so little reasons to roll. Okay, if I put them here, will they stay up? They'll stay there at least till the end of the show, and that's all I need. Alright. Back to game. This one? Yeah, I remember my hotkeys. Yeah, trust me, it's not only video game design that I think about all the time, non-stop. We go back in here. I only see one boy corpse. Uh-oh. Well, this is the red we're going out through, right? No, this is the blue we're going out through. Blue is wrong. Wait. Yeah, blue is not the one we want. We want the red one. Okay, so if we're going this way... This is... No. What? This is all... No, I do want to go out that blue one. Right, that's the point. This is the one we're backtracking through. To get up here to the red door room where we fought the Mancubus. And that happened. Okay. Here. This is going towards the exit, which means this long hallway... I should save. It's been a while. This is probably going to be a big, fight corridor. Yep. Ow. Really, I just want to get these guys, because do not like to deal with them skeleton boys. They're in a whole heap of trouble. Refill that. I'm gonna need some of that health. My armor's still doing okay. We're still over 100. Being over 100 also means that we're still in blue armor territory, so we're actually getting the better damage reduction. Well, okay, wait. Is the orange the quick escape, or... I gotta talk orange. What? Why would you put us out here? We can't get in there without the red key. Would the idea be to, like... Maybe this spawns more on harder difficulties, but, like, would you want to, like, run through to aggro everything, get here, and then teleport outside the room, and then just watch them all fight each other? Maybe from up here to get pot shots in? Okay, anyway. There's a little more zone out here? This is cool, actually. This is supposed to be like an escape pod that we're getting out on. Okay, if that's that... What did that do? Was that supposed to open something that... Is that supposed to open this door? But it was already open for some reason? Does it show us anything over here that just opened? Alright, I'll check one thing, because that could have, like, opened the door to... Why did this stay open this time? Man. There are some things happening here which I do not understand. So it's not this one. It would be this door that says unlocked. That is still locked. I'm trying to tell, this... I feel like certain mechanics on this map might also be a little jank. See, I keep swearing I hear, like, spider steps. Like that, but I think that's in the music. I like this little exit, this idea of, like, yeah, no, this is our little escape craft, and we're just escape. And then I die? Well, we know there's something behind it, because from the other side there is a window, and that's the room that the BFG was in. But, oh, 2 hours on that map! Hey, bad news, fam. Thanks to that, See, I say it was a discussion, but it was more me just saying stuff. So it's probably... Okay, is a rant still a rant if people who hear it are willing to listen from it? That's a lecture. That's called a lecture. That's the difference. The willingness of the audience to accept what is said. It's either a discussion or an argument if it's both sides are the audience. And if it's an asymmetric, it's a rant or it's a lecture. So I'm going to say thanks to that lecture, because you seemed willing to accept most of what I've had to say, or at least to let it go, if you did disagree. And I think thanks to that lecture, this is going to be an unintentionally one map stream. Being more visibly angry? Well, I thank you for that, because a lot of what we talked about is something that I've thought a lot about, because it does make me very angry. So what you're saying is I hid that anger well, so I'll take that as a as a compliment. Oh, hang on. That chat is still under that bug, even though I put it over the bug. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna say that's gonna do it for today because I wanna go eat a taco. Really. No, because I want it to be under that, but over that. So what if I just take this one and I can throw it under that, and that should be fine. All right, let's go see what the opening Search and Destroy looks like. Dimensions are starting to warp because of the monsters using the teleporter violently. Now we can easily walk to other places, such as space facilities or the underground. You rev up your chainsaw, ready to train naughty imps as an opening commemoration. It's an age-old phrase. The only good monster is a dead monster. Danger open. Well, I'm gonna save it danger open because it's danger open. He's slowly coming at me. Ow. Oh, it pushed me back. Okay, so it is pistol start, so it did kill us right there to reset our power curve. What did it just push us into? No, I won't check it. That's for both of us to learn next time. Let's throw us here. And yeah. Hey everybody. That was less game today, but I hope still sort of like informative and not offending. That's kind of what I try to go for in life. Informative and not offending. But I had a pretty good time. I hope you did too. Next time we'll play more Doom. Hopefully I won't forget Saturday night stream this Saturday. I was also kind of in a bad mood last Saturday, so it's probably for the best. But this time, I'm definitely starting to think, nah, my voice is... Honestly, I've been doing this streaming stuff enough that, like, it has helped me build up, like, vocal tolerance? Vocal tolerance sounds like something else. Still in that realm of, hey, stop being political. Like, vocal tolerance. That would be vocal intolerance. Anyway. Yeah, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for chatting. And until next time, get your vaccine, get boosted. That's the trying to get everybody there. It's the best way to actually end this and hopefully, end the pandemic instead of becoming endemic. Man, by the way, if you're somebody who is sick of COVID everything and the changes it's brought to our lives, if you are under the... And again, this is me trying to give information that may not be welcome, but it's my stream. I'm going to do this one anyway because I feel most passionately about these days. If you are one of the people who is under the misunderstanding that somehow becoming endemic will be an end to the pandemic lifestyle, no, it just means masking and like yearly vaccination updates and a continued extremely high death rate will become a permanent part of life. It will not be the end of that part of our lives. It will just make the changes we've had to make for the pandemic permanent. So we don't want endemic. I don't know how people are doing on that standpoint these days, but let me just tell you, that's what endemic means, is that living like this becomes permanent. Yeah, see you around. But so get your vaccine, get boosted. Don't be someone who is letting the virus have a foothold. If you can't get vaccinated yet, or for whatever reason, stay home because avoiding exposure is avoiding infection, is avoiding spread. If you do have to go out, wear a mask, protects other people. Their mask protects you. Wash your hands. That's just good hygiene. Lift the voices of the oppressed. Remember, Black Lives Matter is not erasing other people, but All Lives Matter is erasing the oppression of black people. That's kind of that's probably the better way of putting it. Maybe I'm going to change this how I say this point going forward. Um, Learn to read power dynamics so you can tell the difference between those who are oppressed and those who are claiming to be oppressed. By the way, if you can hear it, and if you've heard it, the louder you hear it, the less oppressed they usually are. Unless more people are saying it. Sometimes a lot of people get oppressed. Um, remember that oppression. Uh, Remember that neutrality isn't real. Staying neutral on a topic allows the oppressor in the situation to continue oppressing. The rule that underlines the rest of these rules is take care of one another. I'll see you next time.